Hello guys and welcome back. I'm super excited to be doing this part of the series, right? I'm really excited. You can tell from my face that I'm really excited to be recording this part of the series. So today we're going to be taking a look at IP and IP address management. My name is Kenneth. Let's get into it. So today we're looking at IP and IP address management. I'm going to go through the slides as usual very quickly, and then we're going to do some hands-on to get a full understanding of what we are talking about, right? All right, so let's get straight into our slides. IP and IP address management. IP and IP address management tools or softwares help us to allocate, track, monitor IP addresses within our environment. It's so important to track and manage your IP addresses so that you know what ones you've used, what ones are available, right? So IP address management softwares are typically good for medium to large scale networks, right? They are structured relational databases. They use relational databases to manage IP addresses and their scopes. You can also have manual implementation or automated implementation, which is that when you assign IP address to a device, it is automatically collated in your IP address management software or tool, or the other way around, when you assign it within your IP address management tool, it can automatically assign it to a specific interface within your environment, right? So on to the next slide. We're going to take a look at spreadsheets versus IPAM tools. Some organizations use spreadsheets and some use IPAM tools, and that is fine, right? Spreadsheets would usually work well for small networks or when tracking very specific items, right? Very specific networks or small networks, or you're tracking things like service provider IP addresses that are within your network, right? So it's really important to know that spreadsheets work well. Then for scalability, right, you may have a few challenges when you're scaling to multiple locations, multiple networks, and if you're providing service to other people, if you're a service provider yourself, it's usually can be difficult using spreadsheets because of the scalability issues when it has to do with multiple networks and multiple DHCP pools, right? Next one is best practice. Best practice says use IP address management software for efficiency and accuracy, right? For efficiency and accuracy, and you can automate it so that you minimize human error within your environment. Then the next slide is tips for spreadsheet. Now, if you're in a small network and you're going to be using spreadsheets, or you're in a medium network and you want to use spreadsheets, ensure you are listing small subnets, right? If you're listing small subnets, it's fine. So if you have a subnet that contains 254 IP addresses, you can list all of them in a spreadsheet and that'll be fine. If you have a /16, or if you have something like a /16 that has loads and loads of IP addresses, right? Listing all the IP addresses within that network might not be the best way to go, right? So what you can list is the static, those that have been assigned, and any IP address that is not listed, your assumption is that it has not been assigned. It's best not to use spreadsheets for big networks or big subnets. If you have smaller subnets, 254 IP addresses is not a lot. You can easily do that in a spreadsheet. Avoiding listing every IP in a large network. That's what I've spoken about now. Yeah. So avoid that, like a /16 network. Now, record, start, and NIPs only use that addresses or scope. So if you're listing a huge network, record, start, and NIPs, and then just record the scopes or the addresses that have been used. Next one is, if an IP is missing, it's available. Assumption it's not being used, right? Use a separate tab for each subnet. Now, if you're on a network where you have things like, let's say you have 192.168.10.0.20.0.30.0, you can use a separate tab on your Excel sheet or your Google Sheets, whichever spreadsheet you're using, to specify that this is for a different subnet, right? Or different VLAN, depending on how your network is, right? So you can use a different tab to separate various subnets. Now, you can also use separate templates for each network or location. Now, if you have multiple locations or your network spans multiple geographical locations, you can use various spreadsheets and for those locations. You can also put the locations in a tab. It depends on you entirely, right? Whatever works for you, but just know, structure a way that you would separate those locations and those IP addresses. Next one is keep all VLANs and subnets in your network in a single Excel file. If you're using a spreadsheet, that is, put all VLANs and all networks in a single. So if you have VLANs and networks that are closely related, that are within the same network, just put them on the same spreadsheet. It's easier for you that way. Backup securely, ensure you backed up securely, and manage access efficiently. So whoever has the right to edit the file should be able to access it securely, do edits, and who shouldn't have access to it should not access it at all. So use least privilege with your spreadsheets. Now, tips for using IPAM. Understand your IPAM tools. Ensure you understand your IPAM tool, right? Ensure you know its features, how to get support, and the various features it provides to you. This would help you maximize your IPAM tool, right? Can it automate and help you discover IPs? Can it assign IPs? Then beautiful. Use it for discovery and assignment. If it can integrate with your DHCP and your DNS and even assign IPs using these, that's beautiful. Learn how to do those and do it with your IPAM too. Uh, Ensure you document prefixes, ranges, and scopes so that when an IP has started being used and starts depleting, you can easily tell by looking at a dashboard that this scope is depleting or this range is depleting. Another one is regular backups. Ensure that your IPAM tool is backed up effectively. If it's on premise, ensure you have multiple backups. You might want to have a cloud backup as well. Track utilization and plan capacity, right? So track how your wherever you've hosted it, track how it's being used, and plan how big your your on-premise server or device is going to be, or how large is going to scale, and ensure that you've made arrangements for that type of scaling, right? So I think that's about it with the slides, and then we're going to get into the practicals. First, we're going to look at the spreadsheets, and then secondly, we're going to take a look at using an IPAM tool and what an IPAM tool looks like. On my screen, we have a spreadsheet that I have designed and prepared, right? It's pretty much basic. There's nothing complicated on this spreadsheet, I promise you, right? So let's look at what I've done already. On this spreadsheet, I've just done the background, the formatting, the design, and then I've frozen the first 3 rows, right? So that when you're scrolling, you're still able to see the table headings, right? Now I've given it a title IP address management, and it's for the subnet 192.168.10.0/24. And I have IP addresses, subnet mask, VLAN, mode, status, description, location, and MAC address. These are some of the attributes that you might want to collect for your IP addresses, right? So you can have as many as you want. Yeah. You can have as many table headings as you would want in your environment. Just know that they are very basic, important ones that you shouldn't leave out in an IP address management spreadsheet, right? So the few of them that I have identified is what I've called out for you, and that is what you have here. So I've just done this and I've put them in here, right? So let's say, for instance, we're documenting for the subnet 10.0/24, right? So I put in the IP address here, 192.168.10. That is, let's say, .0. That is the network address, right? So this is our network address, and if we go all the way down, we'll get our subnet, our default gateway and all of that. So this is our network address. Then our subnet mask, obviously, for this one is the 255.0. That's our subnet mask. And our assumption for this network is that we are on the VLAN 10. So this is for VLAN 10. So I've done something else here called the mode, right? Mode is what I've used a drop down button for it. So is either static or DHCP. So you get the point of what we're trying to do here, right? So mostly what you're going to be documenting are static IP addresses, right? So you might want to select static. I'll show you where the DHCP one comes in, right? So, and then you have the status. So status is a drop down button as well. It's called, it has three options: one, used, available, and DHCP server. So the used one says that this IP address is used, right? Let's just get that this is the network address for now, right? So obviously we're not going to be assigning the network address the 10.0. So that's fine. We're just going to put this for, just to put it in there. Now we have the description for this, for this IP address, right? So you can add any description. For this one, it's the network address, so no need for a description. So network address. So no need for a description. Location. Typically, you need to add the location of the devices having these IP addresses. It's very important. So for me, let me say that this device is on the first floor, right? Now, the next thing is the MAC address, right? So we can put whatever MAC address it is that we want to put in here, right? Let's just assume that this is a MAC address, right? Now, you can populate this way. To get a drop-down button, it depends on the spreadsheet you're using. You should be able to figure that one out on your own. For this, the Google spreadsheets, you just need to go to Insert and go to drop-down, and then use this data validation rules wizard here to put in the details that you want. You see the drop down has already appeared, so you put the options you want. You can add additional options here. So the options are the values that would be in the drop down, right? So I wouldn't be doing this because I've already done that. So close this out. So by the time you've populated your information on this spreadsheet, we are going to have something that looks just like this. So this is the one that I have populated already, right? So obviously 10.0 is the network address. We're not using that one. It's just going to be blank. So we're just going to leave that blank. So I'll just delete that information. And then you see that on the mode, we have static ones and we have the rest DHCP. You know that typically when configuring your IP addresses, you're going to say IP address, IP excluded IP addresses, depending on the device you're configuring. If you're configuring a Cisco, you specify the excluded IP addresses. That is your static IP addresses. So these excluded IP addresses are obviously going to be specified as static on your spreadsheet, right? So once they are specified as static on your spreadsheet, their status can be either used or available because they are no longer going to be assigned by your DHCP server. So they are either used or available. So for those that are used, you specify that they are used with a drop down, right? Just like the one we have here. For those that are not used, the static IP address that have not been used, you say that they are available until they are used, and then you can change them as well. Now, you also have your description here. So ensure that you use a description that makes sense, right? So for this device or for this IP address 10.1, assigned kiosk workstation, these are just example descriptions, right? They are not actual network devices. So kiosk workstation on the first floor, and this is the MAC address. Shared scanner in records office .2. This is also in the first floor with the MAC address. Shared HP LaserJet printers in the copy print room, first floor with this. So notice that most of them are in the same floor because most networks that I've designed, most IPs, you will typically find them on the same floor, right? Most of the IP addresses that are in the same subnet will typically be on the same floor, unless they are IPs that traverse floors, things like access points that are going to appear in the same VLAN, but they are going to be on multiple floors, or things like CCTV cameras that will be in the same VLAN, but on multiple floors, or things like, let's say, What else would be on multiple floors? Access control devices, right? Those access control devices that you either use your fingerprint or your uh, key card, yeah, to access a door, a room, or whatever, right? So those things can be in the same villa but be on multiple floors. But things like printers, desktops, laptops, and all of that, most of them you'll find on the same floor in the same subnet, right? So that's it. So for IPs that have not been assigned, we have them. For DHCP ones that have not been assigned, we have them here saying that they are DHCP. If your configuration changes in the future and you want more static IP addresses, simple, you can just come in here, click on it and say we've converted all these to static IP addresses, right? We've converted them to static IP addresses and you can assign them how you want. Now, for this one that says status DHCP server, these are IP addresses that have been, so this should be available. So for these ones that say mode DHCP, meaning that these IP addresses are DHCP scope IP addresses, and we can't tell their availability. Only the DHCP server can tell their availability. So there's no need tracking them here because obviously people come and go in the offices and they're going to be using different IP addresses with different lease time that they will be having, right? So you can't say one device would have a specific IP address, obviously, because it's a DHCP scope address. So just leave them as DHCP scope or DHCP server. Or what you can do is do 192.168.10.10 to the last one of that range, and you specify that they are in the DHCP scope, and you just list out the static IP addresses. So obviously this is a small range of IP addresses that just has 254, right? That ends at 255, right? So you can list all of them out, but if you're using a /16, then that's a different thing altogether. You want to do it in the range, right? So that's what this IP address management on spreadsheet looks like. And I was really excited coming up with it because it's something I've used in the past, and sharing it with you guys. I was really excited about sharing it with you guys. So yeah, this is it. I'll put it on my GitHub as well so that if you need to download the template, you can access it, right? Now, this is what this would look like. So if you had a /20, you can do that for a /20, duplicate it, just right click, and duplicate and make for a /20, /30, /40, /50, just in that manner. And you have all the IP addresses and their management, Excel sheets that you'd need, right? How about public IP addresses assigned by our service providers? Now, if you have public IP addresses assigned by service providers, it's a different thing. You can document them on your Excel sheet as well, because that works, right? So what you can do is go to create a new tab and go to service providers. Once you're in service providers, what you can do is list out the IP addresses, the public IP addresses that have been assigned to you, the subnet mask, the first service provider that has assigned that IP address to you, and then the status of that IP address. Have you used it? Is it available? You can specify that on the status, and then your device as well. The device that IP is assigned to, you can have it in here, and then you can have the interface that that IP address is assigned to specified in your Excel sheet, and then the MAC address and the description as well. So this is how you can track your IP address efficiently on your Excel sheet, on your spreadsheet, and know where everything is located. Now, one of the advantages you would find with having your IP addresses in this manner is that you find that it's already easy to know when a device has failed and you're trying to troubleshoot it. You already know where the device is. It's on the first floor, obviously. This is the shared HP printer. Laserjet printer is in the copy print room on the first floor. That's the MAC address, and that's the IP. You can already from your location start trying to ping this IP to see what the issue is, right? A new joiner can just open this sheet. They obviously will not have rights to edit the sheet, right? they'll just have a view only access. Open the sheet and say, oh, okay, a ticket has been raised, for instance, that the printer on the first floor print room is having issues. It can't print. It's not even reachable. Okay. The new tech logs into this sheet. Oh, that printer. Let me see. Okay. They go in here. Okay. The printer is on the first floor, copy print room. The IP address is 10.3 and all of that. Because I've been in scenarios where I've had to troubleshoot devices and I did not know their IP address. I didn't know the location. They just tell me the printer on the second floor is having issues. There are like 10 printers on the first floor, for crying out loud. There are like 10 printers on the second floor, for crying out loud. How do you expect me to know what you're talking about? So these kind of documents could help you say printer, first floor, copy print room, or printer, second floor, right wing, after, just by the door, right? And you can be efficient, you can be fast, you can be effective in troubleshooting what the issue is within your environment, right? So that's just one of the things you can do with your IPAM spreadsheet. Now we'll move over to a tool that I've also um, found out that can help you do this. It's called NetBox. I'll quickly go over to that one. Okay, so all right, on to the next thing. Now on my screen we have NetBox, right? So NetBox is not only a network documentation tool or just an IP address management tool. It's a full suite of network um, management tools, right? There's so many things that you can do with NetBox, right? But what I'm going to be focusing on today is IP address management, right? So we're going to see what IP address management looks like. So the advantage of using tools like NetBox, there's so much other tools out there that you can use for IP address management. SolarWinds has a solution for IP address management. There's a PHP one, a PHP IP management tool that you can also host in your environment. So most of them, you can host them on premise or in the cloud, right? Or you can host them on their own cloud instances, or they can open or provision a cloud instance for you and you can have it hosted there and you can put in all the things that you need and from there pull IP addresses and documentations for your environment, right? But for this one, this is a cloud instance on the NetBox cloud as well. I have a trial version that I'll use to show you what IP address management looks like, right? So for IP address management on NetBox, there's usually an approach to follow, right? You just don't go in and because you see IP addresses, you just start putting IP addresses there, right? It works, yeah, but there's a better way to do it. So typically what you would find is you have your prefixes, right? So in your prefixes are not like your IP addresses, right? So what you do within your prefixes is to define your IP address prefix, right? So if I went into prefix, just in IPAM, I go to prefix and I say, I want to add a prefix of 192.168.0.0/16. It's not active, obviously. It's like a container of other IP addresses, right? So let's say I'll just leave the VRF. It will use the global one and I'll use the description of, let's say, main office, for instance, right? So, and I've done all of that and I create this prefix, right? So if I go back to prefixes, you can see that I have 192.168.0.0/16 and it's a container. So let's create one more, right? So if I created one more, let's say 192.168.10/24, right? Obviously, this would be like a child to the previous one that I've created, right? I'll leave the VRF as well. And I'll say that this is first floor, right? In our main office. Let's just make that main office dash first floor, right? So if I create this, and I go back to prefixes, we can already see that this is a sub of this. And now it says that this has one child, right? The children, one, right? So let's go ahead and create another one. So we create another one, let's say 20, and it's a container as well. And we say description is main office, let's say second floor, right? Create. Now, if we go back to prefixes, we can see that we have 0.8% used. This one has two children, which are these two, right? And we have 0.8% usage, meaning that these IP addresses are being used from this one, right? So we have so many IP addresses that we can get from, so many scopes that we can get from this Slack system network. Now, with that said, if we now want to create IP addresses within 10.24, 10.0/24, sorry, we go into 10.0 and we can go to IP addresses. You see, it already says that we have possible 254 IPs available, right? Now we can add IP addresses to this scope or to this 10.0. Now, if we go here, just like we had in our Excel sheet, and add the .1, so let's say we want to add one, and we go here and say add IP address. See how smart it is? It already has populated the IP address space for us with the .1/24, and it's active. Obviously, this is not a scope or is not a container, right? It's active. And let's say you can select whatever role that you want to give this IP address here, but I'll leave that blank. The VRF is main office. We have the DNS. You can put all of that, description, first floor, just like we saw in the description. Let's say it's one of our printers, right? Printer room, print slash scan room, right? Now we've defined the description for this IP address. We can add a lot more information, right? We can add the device that this IP address is assigned to, and how you can do that is devices. You would have created your devices here, right? But let's just go ahead and do our thing. So now there are some devices that have been created. You see this device, AUS, all of that. Just keep going. You keep seeing various devices and their interfaces that are available. So you can create a device. For instance, you create a Catalyst 2960 Catalyst switch, and after you've created that switch, it has 24 ports, and you've added the 24 ports, for instance, right? So you'll see all these 24 ports here, and you can assign that IP to that specific interface, right? Or you have a VLAN interface, right? And assign it, or you have a router interface or a firewall interface. You can assign that interface with an IP address here, right? So we select that. We have it here. That's the device, and that's the IP address. That's the interface that's taking the IP address, right? Now we have IP addresses. Obviously, okay, that's for NAT. If we're doing NAT, that is for routing, but we're not doing any routing information, routing and any NAT translations here, right? So we'll go ahead and create. So after creating, you see that you have your IP addresses here. 192.168.10.1/24. You have the VRF, which is the main office. Status is active, and you have it assigned, right? And the description is first floor printer, print scan room, obviously. And now you see that your IP address scope is reducing, the allocation space is reducing. We had 254 before, now we have 253. The more you add, the more it reduces. Now if we go back to prefixes, right, and we keep if we keep adding IP addresses, this would keep reducing. If we keep adding scopes, this would keep reducing. And as well, if we keep adding IP addresses within the scope, right? As we can see, 10.0/24 IP addresses 1, right? So you can tell that our IP addresses would be reducing. You can see the utilization is 0.0%, child IP is 1, available IP is 253, first available 192.168.10.2. That's the next available IP address. So this is practically what we've done in our Excel sheet, just in a final interface that can, be automated. Now, this can be automated in your environment as well, because NetBox has APIs that you can use to interact with various devices. So you can interact with your Cisco devices, your FortiGate devices, various networking devices, Juniper, Arista, all those devices, right? Either pulling IP addresses and interface descriptions and all of that into your netbox, or pushing configuration from your netbox into those interfaces, into those devices, and configuring those interfaces. So using APIs and all of that. So this is something that is obtainable using IP address management tools in your environment. And this is always good for medium to large scale networks, not usually for small networks, right? So that's basically it for IP address management. I was excited making this video. I was excited creating this particular one. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to chat me up or drop the question in the comments, and I can, try to get a good answer for you. Also remember that the document that I've used, the Excel sheet, I would make it available and I'll provide the link with this video. And as usual, thank you so much for watching. Consider liking, subscribing, and sharing, and see you on the next one.